Okay, let's go.
Hello there, Chick Chatters. We're back with Teen Mom, episode 4 of the next chapter. And you might hear a little bit of nibbling in the background, but that's because I got a brand new puppy last week. And like any celebrity that has a brand new baby, y'all ain't going to see it until it's about a year old. So trying to protect its privacy. Otherwise, I would show you.
These Teen Mom girls are just out here publicizing all their children. So we'll be talking about them today.
We did get a break from Amber this episode, which thank the Lord. But we have 5 girls that were predominantly showed in this episode. So we're going to start with Jade and her problems, which I guess they kind of already set this up in Family Vacation because they started getting calls about Chloe and her school and everything. So they decided that the best thing to do after going to family vacation and then having a wedding and then going on a honeymoon was to pull their kid out of school to also homeschool. You guys, and you just sold a house too. Like, it's just too many things.
It's a lot. I don't know why they opted for that right away. I know sometimes it can be difficult to get a kid into a school mid-school year, but I think at that point you just cut your losses and you sign them up and you wait. But this attempt at homeschooling is, well, we're seeing how it's going. It's not going well. They're trying to count these blocks with Chloe. They both are getting frustrated. It seems like Jade's trying to take over, which is usually what we see her doing. But we learn later on in the episode when she goes out with her girlfriend, it sounds like Sean is the one who's doing most of the schoolwork with Chloe, which makes sense because Jade runs a business. I don't know why Jade was trying to jump in the first scene if later on we learn that Sean is the one who's primarily doing this. I feel like she should have just left it at that because I could tell why Sean was frustrated.
Well, Jade struggles with giving up power if she's there. The only reason Sean is teaching Chloe alone is because Jade's not home. If Jade was physically home, she would be inserting herself and doing all that. And I'm not saying Sean should even be teaching her. I mean, I don't even know how qualified Sean is to do this.
I don't think either one of them should be teaching her. I think they seem equally qualified as far as trying to teach a small child homeschool. Somebody said she needs to just have one of us to listen to. And that's the most right thing that I heard in all of Jade's scenes, especially now that Chloe is school aged. I'm very tired of Jade and Sean arguing about Chloe in front of Chloe. It's starting to get to the point where you can tell she's understanding them. She should not be having to feel badly about the two of her parents being frustrated because they're on a power trip with each other. It has nothing to do with Chloe or her ability to learn or her attention span or anything. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I know that they're just trying to get by. It sounds like eventually they recognize that this homeschool thing isn't really going to work out, so that they do need to get her back into some kind of private school. I wish they would have just known that in the first place, but she mentions the learning curve or whatever.
Right.
So.
I love that that's what she called it. Jade's got jokes over here calling it a learning curve. It's sad because Chloe, you can tell it was stressing her out when her parents were arguing. They just got married. She don't want to be the reason that they get divorced over some blocks. And they're not even doing a good job teaching her. They're trying to tell her the answer at the same time, too. They're like, how many you got left? She says 6. No, it's 7.
I know. It's like, let her work it out and then count how many were left and she can, I mean, again, none of us here are teachers, but it's just, they're not qualified. I think they're equally unqualified. That whole thing didn't work out.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I thought that this whole homeschooling thing was just a way to keep Sean seeming like he's got a job. So this way, when we're coming after Zach for not having a job, no one's coming after Sean because at least he's a teacher at home, right? But Sean later says to Jade, me and Chloe, we just need a break from each other. I need a break from her. She needs a break from me. And you need a break from her and me. Like, we all need a break from each other. I'm like, Sean, tell me you want to play video games for 5 hours alone without telling me you want to play video games for 5 hours. I'm not saying everybody needs a break from everybody in their house, but I don't want to hear that from the unemployed person. I know that running a home and taking care of a home is a job for sure, but Chloe is school age now. So really Sean's keeping up after himself for the most part. When he's at home, he's just watching himself. He's at school and then he's doing, I don't know. Listen, Sean has had a lot of growth. So I will give him a lot of credit for all of his growth, but there comes a time where Like,
My thing, if Jade comes home and as a housewife or house person would, maybe the house is clean and she don't have to come home and really worry about anything or whatever, I would justify that. I mean, I don't know what's going on in their life, but I have doubts because Jade is so controlling. I feel like she wouldn't even let this man fold a towel without being right over him. I
that's
don't
what I
really
think
think
the
he's at
problem.
home running the household.
I think a lot of it is Jade has this internal struggle where she's like, I want him to take over and to do this, this, and that. But at the same time, I can't give control over because all my life I've had to be in control of every situation. My parents couldn't have that control. So I cannot just give that control away to this tall man. I'll just let him let me sleep and be my guard dog. I think part of it is like, he likes that she has this control over Sean and stuff. But I do think that Sean needs to keep fighting back on the control thing, because if you got two parents in a household, it's not good for Chloe to see one parent completely overrun the other. Like, that's not healthy for her either. It doesn't matter who it is.
If Sean's going to be the house man, he needs to be in charge of the house, and maybe he is. I just don't see Jade letting go of control in any aspect of her life right now. That's kind of their current storyline. We haven't seen them since the wedding, so this is us just landing back into their regular life. It's pretty much the same. This is how they're usually operating. They bicker quite a bit, but they do tend to work it out.
Moving on, we're going to go to Maci. And Maci has going on this episode is basically Bentley's driving. He's starting his driver's ed. He is doing his test.
Crazy.
It's just crazy because we watched this kid be born on episode 1 of 16 and Pregnant, and then now this kid is driving, and he looks exactly like his dad, but blonde with curly hair. And I don't mean just like looks. I mean like his mannerisms, his voice, the things he says, just like a young Ryan.
Weird.
Which could be a recipe for disaster, but every time I think of young Ryan, I think of that video of that girl with the Robitussin. I always think of that when I think of young Ryan era. That was such a good era.
There was one moment that I think it was right after he failed his initial permit test when he was taking it on the computer the first time. Maci asked him something like, well, are you going to take it tomorrow? And he's like, well, yeah. And it just sounded exactly like Ryan. It was like the sarcasm and the ego a little bit. Like it was all there. Yeah.
And that moment where they first show Bentley and they're talking about him taking the test and he's joking about her helping him or something. And he's like, you're going to make me redo it? And she's like, well, yeah, I'm going to have to be honest. And he's like, well, why? The Ryan thing. And she's like, well, look around, son.
She was like, open your pretty eyes and look around. That's a quote from one of my favorite movies, Save the Last Dance. That's exactly what she says. She's looking at Julia, whoever. Open your pretty eyes and take a look around.
All these cameras.
All the cameramen are sitting there.
And it's like, he is Ryan's son, 100%. Ryan's son who went to preschool. This is the main difference.
And here's the difference between someone who went to preschool.
I never went to preschool.
And someone who didn't go to preschool is that Bentley is getting his permit while Ryan is driving on a suspended license. And they are wanting to make a big deal out of that in this whole storyline. I don't know if they're setting up some kind of rule breaking thing, because we're even getting voiceovers in each scene at this point of things that are not even said in the actual scene. But every voiceover is, and also Ryan can't drive with Bentley yet till he's more experienced. You're never looking at Maci talking. It's just this weird voiceover. She's only said it one time. I think she said it for real when her and Taylor were talking about some ground rules. They set that. I don't even think Ryan can legally drive with Bentley, even if they wanted him to.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, isn't this all just a moot point anyways? If the man is on a suspended license, the instructions say he's got to be with a fully licensed driver over the age of 21. Yeah. Not Ryan right now. I mean, no. He's over the age of 21, but why do they keep teasing this man driving around with Bentley? Like, Ryan's begging to do this. Ryan isn't even asking to do this yet. They're just throwing it out there.
I'm wondering, is there going to be something going on maybe later in the season where Bentley ends up driving Ryan somewhere and there's a problem with it? There's no way that you could walk away from that episode, even if you barely paid attention, with not understanding that Ryan is not allowed to drive with Bentley.
Yeah, that was another thing that bothered me. I'm like, why you guys keep saying not yet? Like, you're going to let him, is his license going to be fully reinstated in this amount of time? Because if he's
They
still
said
a
a year.
suspended license, then there is no not yet. You're not on a permit for like 5 years or anything. You're just on a permit for like a year or two.
Well,
So
they kept referring to this until you get more experience and acting as if it was a rule that they were enacting. But as far as I know, people who have a permit can't drive with someone who has a restricted license. 2 half licenses don't equal 1 license. You have to have a fully fledged license. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if he's within his restricted time, Ryan can drive from 5 to 9 or whatever. Maybe he's allowed to have him in the car,
right.
but I don't know.
Well, I know like back in the day or whatever, maybe 70s, 80s, they'd be taking Bentley on the back roads anyways and saying yeehaw to the law. But
True.
if this is 2024 and y'all got cameras everywhere, so there's no way that Bentley and Ryan should be going out for joy rides and you guys should be teasing that anyway. They're setting up for something. Yeah. I blame preschool.
We get to see Bentley driving around a little bit after he passes his permit test and officially gets it. And he drives around some cones and tries to do some parallel parking. He seems to do all right. I mean, he definitely doesn't get it within the perfect lines, but he didn't seem to run anything over too bad. For his first couple times, I think he did pretty good.
I was just looking at Maci the whole time. I was like, damn, like we're the same age, and I just could not imagine taking a kid out right now driving. Oh my gosh, she must be feeling all the anxiety and all everything. Like,
I can barely contain myself when my fiance is driving a car, so I could not imagine being the passenger of a 15-year-old child who does not.
That's yours, and
know
you're only
how to
like
drive.
33, 34. You're only in your like early 30s.
We did also get a little cameo appearance from Ryan and Jen and what's Grandpa's name? Whatever his name is.
Larry. Jen and Larry.
Yep, Larry. And we got to see his
Love her.
girlfriend.
We got to see a glimpse of her. She's been very reported about, but we haven't actually heard much from her. But it seems like Maci and her get along just fine. She says that they have a decent co-parenting relationship right now, so that's good.
Maci's not a jealous person. I feel like Maci just didn't get along with
Dallas or Mackenzie or any of those other girls.
That's because of those girls. Maybe Dallas, like Maci probably still has some feelings around that time, but I think at this point, Maci's not bothered at all. But Mackenzie was just trash. To have that woman talk to her the way she did at that reunion 10 years ago.
With a letter.
I can't with that letter when you married that man when he was nodding out, but okay.
My favorite part of Maci's whole storyline was when they were dyeing her son Maverick's hair and they were talking about Bentley driving and Taylor's like, I don't even want to think about you driving. And Maverick looks at him and is like, well, you should think about it right now. Think about it.
I'd be good at it. Your hair dyed blue.
Like Sonic himself. Oh, you better think about it. Let's think about it right now while we got time.
What do you think about it?
Let's ponder it together. That was hilarious to me. It's so funny. It's so nice to see Maci's side kids get a line every now and then.
Yeah.
So then we're going to go to Leah, speaking of side people. Leah is meeting with Victoria to talk about her dad's detox. Apparently there's been an issue getting her dad from the detox to his next step of his therapy and rehabilitation.
Like a long-term care facility. And I'm glad that they talked about this a little bit. I think in general, that's a normal experience for people who are starting their process of recovery to not really have a place that's either affordable or open or acceptable. A lot of these places too are not great places to go and stay. I'm glad that they talked about it. I'm glad that Leah stepped in, but I also kind of felt bad. It just felt like there was some pressure there almost where her sister's everywhere is either really expensive, which we can't afford, or they don't take his insurance.
I don't even think
Leah
probably has like serving. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. I know Leah's serving right now. I know she gets money from Teen Mom, but they're not getting paid like they used to get paid. She has this house now and her life is different and requires more. That's why she's out here serving. Otherwise, she wouldn't be. She was threatened by her ex-husband or whoever he was at her serving job. If she didn't have to be there, she would not be there. That's just fact. She certainly needs the money, but it sounds like she has some connections though as well, whether that's through MTV history or just her past in sobriety and treatment, she does end up using some of her connections, and I'm guessing some of her money. She talked about having to support him.
Did you peep that whole kitchen scene? Leah had this moment where something shifted and clicked, and she became like a new superhero politician. She's like, we got connections, you got connections, I got connections. I'm gonna help him see it through. I was like,
and not only did she do all that, her sister Victoria was like, I'm so tired of the universe stomping on him. And she's like, oh, well, the universe needs to stomp on us so we can be the people that we are today. She's over here pep talking her sister. She really wants to be a motivational speaker. She really does. And she might be getting there.
She's had a lot of years of practice at this point. That perfect line of, we have to be beat down by life so this way we can become the people we are. That's how I became the mother I am today. Victoria literally it stopped her in her tracks for a good 10 seconds before she was like, you're right.
I mean, she is right. She is right. I really do believe that. I think our hardest moments in life definitely define us and make us we are, whether that's a better person or a worse person or whichever. But this girl wants to be a motivational speaker. She has stepped up from the girls, her sister. We're about to see her move on to her father now. Yeah, at some point, she's going to take this outside the family.
From the young girls to the older girls to the men, she's moving herself up. I feel like a part of Victoria's reaction is because Leah probably does not talk to her this way when the cameras are not around. And then she probably look around and be like, okay, the camera's around. You're right.
Yeah.
like who is this woman? I'm sure Leah's positive and stuff, but I do feel like she's, for the longest, I mean, that's why she wasn't open about rehab, right? I feel like she's always putting on this superwoman front at all times. Super mom, superwoman. I have it all together. I think she has it a lot more together than she ever did. It's just sometimes the things she says is just so
not real.
Yeah, it feels like she's being coached or something.
Yeah. I think because she came from so low when we saw her at her lowest, I think she's just so scared to show any piece of vulnerability or weakness at all. And I think that she thinks that that is a good thing to show, but really she doesn't come across as genuine or relatable in any kind of way because she's just kind of like this talking positivity robot. And we all know that she struggles with it. I mean, she just went through what she called, in her own words, a facade of a relationship that was an engagement, and they had a house together and all kinds of things. You can't tell me that you just walk away from that with nothing but motivational speeches. You can at least talk about part that got you to being so grateful for where you are today, which was a lot of pain. So let's not skip that. It's not normal to just skip that.
We are going to skip ahead to where Leah is in the car with her dad. She is driving him to this facility. On the way, they're just talking about detox, their past, how he used to use with her, and he apologizes for that. He says he's ashamed of that, which I would be too. That's not a proud moment at all. It was a beautiful moment. They didn't show him saying much. It sounds like he was really just listening to her and what she had to say. And I don't know, it was just nice. I felt like Leah probably really needed to get that off her chest. I know she's written a lot of that stuff in a book, but it's different when you're sitting in front of the person.
And he's sober. That's the most important thing. Yeah. I love how she said she wanted to take him to the long-term treatment place to get to know each other because it's a whole different thing when he's sober. And I thought it was beautiful as well. It was just a car ride and there's not a whole lot to talk about with it, but just the fact that they can start this new relationship and have some actual vulnerability. And we just talked about how Leah's very surface level. I think that this was the most vulnerable that we've seen her in a really long time. And she still was taking the position of coach and mentor, but she was at least acknowledging some of the pain and things like that she's gone through. But it still was very minimal. I thought that this was really nice seeing them pull in, and it seemed like he warmed up to at least what the outside of the place looked like. So I could tell that put Leah at ease a little bit too. I'm excited to see where it goes, and hopefully he stays sober. I have a parent who struggled with substance abuse, and he's been sober for a long time from his substance of choice, but it's scary. It's always scary. You always still wonder what will happen.
I do want to mention that I want to see a photo of her dad young because Leah makes a point to say that she looks like her dad, and I can't see him under all that beard and stuff. And I know she looks a little bit like Don, but I'm sure she does look a lot like him. I just can't see him underneath all the beard and scruff. And
Remember the way that Kale looked like her dad when she met him that one time? That was just so.
And now she wants a DNA test to prove that man's her dad. Did you even look him in the face?
I know you only saw him once or twice, but
I know you don't like him. I know we can't pick our parents, but like,
yeah, it's him.
Genetics are genetics, girl.
Yeah.
Then they're geneticking.
They are.
Speaking of geneticking. So we're gonna go over
so
to Cheyenne.
Corey called. He asked if he can come over to talk with her about something without the kids around, specifically without Ryder around, because she likes to eavesdrop. And I liked to eavesdrop when I was a kid too. So I believe that. So he comes over all, hey there.
We start off with a compliment.
That's true. And she already thought that he was hating too. She said, don't hate. I feel like she lives, I don't know, down the street from the Kardashians. She's got to have big decorations. But anyways, he comes in there asking if he can take Ryder for 10 days to Michigan for Christmas for her entire break. And Cheyenne's like, what do you mean? It's already Christmas. It's December. The decorations are decorating outside. So when is this happening?
Yeah, you just complimented me on my Christmas decorations. Like it is December.
Now I understand why he wanted to have this conversation without the kids, because it obviously didn't go very well. And he seemed almost even a little bit caught off guard. He seemed like he was nervous to have the conversation. But
he knew he messed up. I just think he thought he was going to get away with it a little bit more than he did.
Right. That's what I mean.
There is no excuse to not tell Cheyenne you're making these plans, because you were just on family vacation with her. And that's probably around the time you made the plans and the flights. You had all the time in the world.
To be like, you don't book a flight for your child to share custody with somebody without talking to that person unless it's completely within your time, which it wasn't. So yeah, he was totally in the wrong. Cheyenne told him to go be wrong somewhere else and to get out of her house, and I cackled.
She was completely right. This man came in here telling her the plan pretty much. He's like, yeah, so I got these flights to Michigan. He has a valid point that her family sees Ryder a lot more than his. My cousin is dealing with this a lot too, because our family's in Michigan, but he lives in Oklahoma. His kids are in Arizona with his ex-wife. So he's always got to fight for visitation to have his kids even come up to Michigan once or twice a year to see their family. And it's a lot easier for her. So I get where Corey wants Ryder to have a relationship with his family. That's totally fine. It's just, you need to communicate these things with your co-parent. It's the way he went about it. It's the way he tried to sneak in and be like kikiing with her, thinking he was just going to be like, okay, I'm going to take Ryder for 10 days on Christmas of all holidays.
I thought it was going to be cute or something. I'm just going to come in and be like, it's going to be 10 days. I'm going to need her for. And I get that you need her. I get the whole thing too. And when she talks with her mom about it and her sister about it, later on, they say the same thing. Corey's a good guy. He makes sacrifices. You guys have always focused on the kids, and it's supposed to be about the kids. So yes, this really sucks, but suck it up, basically. He didn't really want to hear that, but that is the truth. That's how they've always operated. So she ends up leaving it up to Ryder, which I think she knew what Ryder was going to say.
I think the moment Cheyenne told Corey, F you, get out of my house, I knew Ryder was going to Michigan.
The tickets were booked. Ryder was going to Michigan. I don't think there's really honestly a question about it. Although, sure, legally Cheyenne could have made an uproar, but I don't think they're at that point.
I think that Cheyenne's always put the kids first. I think the moment Corey told her that, Ryder already knew before she did, which is another huge mistake.
That's when she flipped out. She's like, now you're just digging a deeper hole. Like, he's like, I know I was wrong. You can go be wrong somewhere else. I was like, tell him.
You don't hype kids up like that, because what if Cheyenne had an actual plan and you had to cut Ryder's trip short? You know what I mean? And he could have even worked with Cheyenne that way. 10 days in Michigan can go by like that too. I know that 10-day trip's going to go by really fast. It feels like it's a lot of days, but it's really not. And at the same time, he could have also made a plan like, hey, I'll have her for 5 days and then I'll send her back over to you, or whatever, do a flight thing. I don't know how it works with her being as young as she is, but I was actually just shocked to see Corey make that kind of plan on his own. And I knew it was coming when with the preview for the episode when they showed Cheyenne talking to Ryder. You and your dad be making all these plans. I was like, oh, this is what it's gonna be about. Corey made a plan and didn't tell Cheyenne.
Yeah.
And then that's exactly what it was. I don't know. Ryder and Ace were so cute when I was having them fill out their little Christmas thing. She's like, have you been naughty or nice or both? And Ace is like, both. Even Maverick had been best friends.
Yeah, they're honest kids. I give them credit for that. That's for sure.
Zach did too. I only heard Zach talk like twice in this episode, and once was to say, I'm mad about this too, but we got to put the kids first. And then the other time was to say, well, at least they're honest.
Yeah, he was over there tracing Ace's hand.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Cheyenne was talking to Ryder about what she wanted to do, which again, we all know what it was that she wanted to do. I thought it was so cute though. When she's like, well, how do you think that sounds? She goes, I think it sounds fun and exciting. I'm going to be over here and take a plane. I'm going to go all the way over here. This is the country.
I felt bad for Cheyenne, but it's one Christmas, and that's going to give her a lot of memories with her dad's side of the family that she probably doesn't really get to have. I'm sure the main trips that they take to Michigan are summer trips or something where it's easier to give up the time. A holiday, like a Christmas holiday, is such a special time to be at a family function or whatever. I'm sure that his family has been dying to have a Christmas with all of the kids and not just...
Especially their youngest one, too, just with all the health problems that she's had. It seems like that's a lot more stabilized now in this time period that they're filming in. I think that also plays a big role too, that just everybody is happy and healthy and safe.
I can't help but feel like the reason why Corey even told Cheyenne even then, he waited till December, probably 3rd, is because Taylor was probably like, dude, you have to tell her. She was probably going over the plan with Corey, and Corey's like, oh, I still got to run it by Cheyenne. And Taylor was probably like, dude, you have to.
I know. Because I know me, even though it's definitely between Corey and Cheyenne, the parenting, if I was Taylor, I would be like, I don't want her mad at me over this. At this point, someone has to step in.
I bet that's what happened. I bet Taylor didn't even know Cheyenne didn't know for a while. And then she was like, she still doesn't know. She was trying to like, dude, it's December. You got to go. I can just see it.
Eventually, Corey does end up coming to pick up Ryder for Christmas. And he comes in and he's like, oh, the Grinch is here. And Cheyenne is literally crying. And he's like, oh, he just still doesn't get it, how hard it is.
She's like, I just don't want to go year on year off with Christmas. I want to be able to split that holiday every year. So I don't want this to fall into that pattern. And he's like, we do split Christmas. She's like, no, we don't. Everything goes in and out with Corey. Like, you can tell. Like,
he doesn't have his daughter all day, then he didn't have his daughter. It sounds like that's the way he's thinking about it.
I think he tried to make light of the situation, but probably made it a little bit worse. I probably would have cried a little bit harder. Like,
he's always trying to be cute and funny and light and whatever. And he's like, oh, the Grinch is here. And you could tell Cheyenne has been crying all day.
All morning. She's probably like cursing him out left and right, like this man. But you know what? I will give Corey one positive about telling her this late is that at least she wasn't stressing for months about this. And I didn't have to hear about this as her storyline.
You know what? Thank you for that, Corey. That's such a good point.
You know, that's what would have happened. She would have been stressed out about Ryder going to Michigan for like 2-3 months before.
They would have had to like, take a class about it and all kinds of things.
All 4 of them would have had to sit down.
Oh, several. An itinerary, all of it.
But Ryder goes to Michigan for Christmas. I didn't see her, but...
Yeah, I didn't see her either.
Anyways, so we're going to go over to the main event for us, which is Briana. And she's talking about her mom and the dynamic between her mom, her, and her sister right now. They show these flashbacks of, I'm guessing last season, where she's telling her mom that she wants to live on her own with the girls. And it's the most monotone, like weirdly looking rehearsed. I swear, if any scene is reenacted, I feel like that was like totally reenacted for the cameras because the lack of motion is just...
You know, as I'm sitting here right now thinking about it too, not only was it probably reenacted, it probably had to happen a couple of times because especially Roxanne responded the first time like an absolute maniac. They probably had to reset, redo it. This is probably the 3rd time now that she's been able to be rational enough just to say, those babies are mine, you can't leave.
Those babies are half mine, Briana. Sorry, Mom.
Sorry.
My turn to live on my own. I was like, damn. I felt like that was a setup to where it's almost like because Briana moved out, Roxanne just spiraled or something. because
Well,
they're
that's the way they're trying. I think that they're trying to look at it at first before they really know what's actually going on, that they're trying to make sense of what's happened. While they talk about what's happened recently, they also acknowledge that several years ago there were a lot of revelations that have come out about Roxanne and some lies and some secrets that she's lived with for a long time and all of that. So I think they're just trying to make sense of why is she crumbling right now. And I think they're trying to decide, is it because we've all moved out or is it because of something else? Because she
Mhm.
apparently is acting really erratically as well. She threw water on Brittany at a restaurant in front of Bree's kids. I know Roxanne is kind of like spicy sometimes, but it does seem like she's using her adult kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Brianna decides to call her and have her come over with Brittany. She runs it by Brittany first because apparently Brittany and Roxanne aren't even speaking after that incident in the restaurant. And Brittany is like, yeah, I think we need to talk about it because Brittany's the most mature person in her entire family. And, oh my God, I just love her so much. So she comes over with her mans. They're playing with the kids and all that. Her and Brianna are talking and they're waiting for Roxanne. It's so weirdly set up. They show Roxanne getting the phone call from Bree and they show her ramping up what's to come. She's like, they don't even know. Like, what's going on?
And the music that they're playing is like some 90s grunge rock, wannabe pop sort of music. It was real interesting. I liked the music, but I never heard that on Teen Mom.
It was so weird. It was just such a weird
She had
cutscene to
like
her.
her gloves on.
Brianna's like, me and Brittany want to have a talk with you. And she's like, okay, gets off the phone. Are you good? Are you good right now?
No, she's not good right now.
Do you need to borrow Amber's Uber app and get yourself a ride over there? Are you going to
Yeah.
be good?
She's not doing good right now. She shows up and she starts to talk about childhood trauma and
Her own.
of her own and things that you just can't get over, like parental addiction and abuse and things like that. And Brittany brings up a valid point saying, well, what do you think you're doing to us if you're over here struggling so bad? And I guess that is a bus that is hitting Roxanne right now, all the guilt and shame and anxiety of what she must be doing to her kids. And I was a little bit confused by that at that moment, just because I know she's obviously acting strange and she's not really being very kind and certainly emotionally her adult children right now, and I'm sure back in the day. But I didn't really get exactly what was going on. They get to kind of going back and forth, and eventually Brittany says, if you keep acting like this, you're not going to be going to the wedding.
And that was the ultimate for Roxanne.
The
The ultimate. She started losing her mind. I do want to say, this woman sitting here talking about trauma, when we just saw in a clip her tell Brittany for the first time that her father wasn't her father on reality TV. How many times has Roxanne had some revelation for her daughters, especially publicly? Not only to wait this long to tell your daughters or whatever, but to wait until you're publicly confronted on a TV show and she's got to look at you and be like, I feel like she's about to tell me my dad ain't my dad. And then you look at her and literally say, your dad ain't your dad. Like, how traumatizing is that? And I'm sure Brittany's never been the same since. We saw that girl completely break. And I've never seen something so horrible and sad between a parent and child on TV. I don't think ever. Even with Amber and her nonsense. I feel like what Roxanne did to Brittany on that show, horrible, despicable.
Yeah.
And for her to sit in front of Brittany and make excuses about her own trauma, everybody's got trauma. But you're going to sit here in front of your kids, which you caused their trauma, and talk about trauma that they did not cause you. You brought them in.
And expect them to feel bad for her and her whole situation after she's just done all of this.
And she's an adult woman. She's in her 50s, 60s. She should be the one that is the bigger person for them. And it's always got to be Brittany. And I always just feel bad for her. She's always got to be the one that's got to give her family a reality check all the time. And it's like, who is there for Brittany? I'm so glad she's got this man. I hope that he is just the most stable man in the world and he's got to be. I don't think she would take anything less. You don't deserve nothing less, but I'm hoping that this guy is just a great, solid guy for her to have around because, man, this girl has had to mother her sister, her mother, her everything, her nieces, everybody.
And it's just sad that Brittany has to be the one to set the boundaries, and Roxanne is going to call her the bad guy for not including her in the ultimate. Of course, Brittany wants her mom at her wedding. She does not want her mom in a self-destructive form who's going to cause all kinds of chaos at her wedding. That's not her mom. Even though Roxanne is spicy, she also loves her children deeply. We do all know that. So whatever version of Roxanne that we're getting right now with this cryptic biker gloves and weird things going on.
Brittany also did not tell Roxanne that she's not going to the wedding. She said, if you continue to be this way, you won't. And Roxanne acted like she just straight up told her, you're not invited to my wedding.
Right.
And she lost her mind, screaming, the ultimate, the ultimate.
She just
that's the ultimate. And Briana was like, you know, when you said that she was going to lose her mind. And I'm like, this should not be this way. It should not be this way.
I know. So eventually Roxanne walks back in the house with this box, all dramatically.
She was like outside having a whole conniption out there, going back and forth with what she was going to do. I think the girls thought she left or she was about to leave, but Roxanne's really outside at her car having a whole episode. Ultimate.
The whole thing is an episode. The whole experience from the moment she showed up, the whole thing was an episode.
Then she goes in with her lockbox.
And she doesn't even explain what it is. She just opens it up and Bree is asking her, what is that? What is it? What's it? Why are you so freaked out about this black box? There could be...
Who knows? Roxanne's unhinged right now. There could be a gun in there. They don't know.
There could be nothing in there too. There could be paperwork in there. Who knows? I don't know. She just seemed real freaked out. But I guess there's a reason to be freaked out because there's literal in the box.
I felt like it was so on brand for Roxanne to not tell her kids what was actually going on. She just sits the damn box in front of them and says, figure it out. She doesn't tell them about the revelations. They got to figure it out on their own. And then she says it. It's like, girl, just walk in here and be like, I have a problem. But instead, she puts this damn box of pills or whatever on the dang table, doesn't even open it for them, and just says, here, you know, like, this is what's wrong. And they're like,
their problem to figure out that she's even on whatever.
And they have to piece it together. They're saying the name of the prescription. They're like, are you on? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, girl, just come out and tell them what you're dealing with. Why you gotta play these games with them? And how many games have you played with them already? Just come in there and just tell them I have a problem. And that's why I've been a psychopath. That's why I've been insane more than usual. Yeah. But this girl's always got to have a secret and keep her damn secret. And she's got to bring her box of secrets in and have them figure it out on their own. That was ridiculous. I'm so annoyed by that.
It was. She's just like dangling all these weird mystery secrets in front of her kids. Like, needs to just be honest about what's been going on. And they kind of leave it at that. I low-key kind of suspect that because of everything we've learned about Roxanne in the past, that she's probably had a problem with something for quite a long time, because what she's taking right now is actually a prescription to treat addiction. I don't know if she's just addicted to a street version of this or if she's actually getting this prescribed, because that's usually the pathway to take whatever she's taking now, what's in this box. So I think it's important to figure out what happened here and how she got here, because people don't just end up on what she's on. They usually have like an addiction in the past. I'm suspecting that Roxanne has probably a history of addiction. She's probably been an addict for, I don't know, 20, maybe even 30 plus years. And she's just been nursing it with this prescription version of
whatever
this.
It is. It would make sense because even with Brittany's biological dad being unalived, you know, in a horrible way, and maybe she was, who knows? I mean, who knows when it started, where it started? That's one thing that she's going to have to explain. It would make sense because she was always been kind of weirdly, randomly hostile, even with Devon, when her and Devon were throwing hands at the restaurant. This ain't the first time Roxanne be throwing hands at the restaurant. It's just the first time she be throwing hands at her own kids at the restaurant.
Yeah.
So
didn't she stand up on a table one day?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was him. That was it all that day. She was trying to throw hands at Devon, and it was a big mess. I mean, like, Roxanne's been having these outbursts, so it would not surprise me if she's had a problem for a long time and she's just now can't get off the in-between.
Right. The wagon wheel.
Yeah. And in the previews that we see coming, it looks like Briana is starting to distance herself from Roxanne because of this. It seems like she's going to limit her time with the kids, which is just gonna throw Roxanne off a bridge. I mean, you might as well just shove that one.
I know. If the ultimate is cut off and then also the kids are cut off, I think Roxanne, I mean, I don't want to be morbid, but I don't see any other reason for her to feel like she wants to be around right now, especially if she's going through some kind of withdrawals or whatever. So she is mad in the preview. We see her basically tell both of them to F off. And I doubt that we'll leave it there ultimately, but ultimate. I doubt that we'll leave it there forever, but that's, I think, what we're going to see in the next episode is just a continuation of that argument. We're also going to see Gary 2.0. I guess that's what we're calling him. Everyone's calling him, who's also now successfully escaped the grip.
Yeah, we were talking about him a little bit earlier. I mean, we didn't get Amber this episode, thankfully. I think we all needed a break. But I had this thought last night. I had to text Brooke at like 2 a.m. because I was like, what if? Because everybody thinks this whole argument between him and Amber was just about her race or whatever. And that could be a factor. Although if he's been dating this woman for a year, I'm sure his family has known for a year that she's white, and that's not going to change.
I
That she's
think
a
a
white
lot of
reality
it
star.
was probably her fame and the fact that she's not famous for anything positive too. But I think your
Right.
point is also valid.
And I'm thinking, so the first episode, we see Amber go to this wedding and she's hooking up with this girl, but we don't see, like, we see her walking out with her, but we don't actually see her going home with her. They could have just walked out and had a cigarette. We don't know. MTV edits or whatever. And I wonder if Gary and her were already dating at that time. I'm assuming that they were. This is an assumption. And even though it's a girl, it's still cheating. So I'm wondering if he figured out by second episode that Amber was actually cheating on him. Honestly, with Amber, literally, it could be something as deep as that, or it could be something as light as he microwaved some McDonald's fries for her and she had a freaking blow up about it. It could be something super simple. He could have not tied her shoe. I don't know. He could have called the wrong Uber. Who knows? It could literally be freaking anything with Amber for her to flip out over. So this is just speculation, but I'm wondering if he was upset seeing her leave with a girl on top of they just got engaged and all that. And I'm wondering if Amber might have downplayed what happened at that wedding. So I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe he didn't know about it at all. I mean, I'm sure they were talking around that time if they started dating shortly after.
He might be thinking he's looking like a fool because on that Zoom call they're talking about this girl and the hookup and everything, and then all of a sudden there he is. And they're laughing and stuff. So maybe I don't know. I don't know if he watches the show or anything. I would think that he doesn't, because to be honest with you, I don't think I could watch the show if I'm dating any of these girls.
You don't have to watch the show if you're dating the person on the show to know what the chatter is around them. Yeah, I think that's very possible that maybe he learned some things about Amber and her like ability to be monogamous or to be truthful. Yeah, I mean, maybe he's not cool with her having relations with a girl. I'm not speaking for myself. I don't know his values and things like that. Maybe that's not something he's open to.
Maybe he just sees it as cheating because technically, I mean, it would be. I mean, unless you've already talked about that. Like, I don't mind if you were to hook up with the same sex. I don't know. That's still, I don't know. So who knows?
And I'm not a fan of like judging people for what they've done pre your relationship, but I know people do. And I know it seems like the timeline was a little gray there.
She could have possibly, cheated. So who knows?
The one that got away. He's forever going to be the one that got away now. So we are going to see him in this next episode coming up, which I am excited for because we haven't actually seen them interact. And now that we know how this all plays out, I just want to see how it goes. But Amber's going to bring Gary to her therapist, which I believe is still the same child therapist, but that's neither here nor there. And I guess she had her first episode of Mania with Gary around, so we'll see how he handles that and what the therapist says for him to do. And then we're going to see Mackenzie get her official divorce and visit the OB with Taz, the baby doctor.
The baby doctor. All right, Chick Chat. Well, you have a good one, and we'll see you next time. Make sure you subscribe and all that.
Yes, join us. We'll see you soon.
Bye.